Good morning, fourth graders in Mrs. Jackson's room. Today you have subtraction practice, and it says use scrap paper to solve. Check your answers using addition. All right, so you want to get a piece of paper to write down the answers as we go through this, but I'll do them here and you can just watch. So here's the subtraction problem, 5,000 minus 1,278, and we'll write the answer here, but then we have to check our answer by doing addition. All right, so I'll start here. It's extremely difficult to subtract when they're written horizontally, so I'm going to rewrite it so it's vertical. And make sure you line up the numbers so they are in their right spot for each place value. And I start here and I think, 0 minus 8. Well, if I have 0, I can't take away 8. And I say, okay, I'll just borrow from the next guy. But I look over here and it says 0. And he says, sorry, man, I'm all out. And I look here and I say, oh, man, it's another 0. Sorry, man, I'm all out. But when I finally get to the 5, I can borrow. And so I know this is tricky when you have to regroup across 3 zeros. But when that happens, I look here and I can't, and I look here and I can't, and I finally can here. So I'm really borrowing from the 500. So I cross out the 500. And if I borrow 1 or I take away 1 from the 500, it turns into a 499. And then the 1 I take from here, from the tens, I give it to the 0, so it'll be a 10. So it'll be 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 7 is 2. 9 minus 2 is 7. And 4 minus 1 is 3. So then here's our answer, 3,722. Now I can check this by adding. Again, it's extremely difficult to add when it's written horizontally, so I'll need to write it vertically. So I'll take my first number, 1,278, and I will add the answer that I got, 3,722, and when I add them, I should get 5,000. 8 plus 2 is 10, so I have to put the 1 at the top. 7 plus 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10 again. And this is exactly the same thing. It's just the 2 is on the top. So 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. 3 plus 1 is 5. And since we got 5,000, we know that when we subtracted, we got the answer right. So we can move on to the next problem. 16,000 minus 14,312. And so I'll do the same thing. It's written horizontally, but I need to write them vertically. And again, I'm borrowing across those zeros.
What?
All right, and then I'll put the subtraction sign. Make sure you're lining the numbers up. All right. And I'm noticing already that I'm going to come across that same problem where I'm borrowing across the zeros. And so I can't take from here and I can't take from here since I can't do 0 minus 2. So I will have to borrow here from the 600. And when I take away 1 from 600, that gives me 599. And the 0, I can now take the 110 from here and bring it over, so I'll have 10. 10 take away 2 is 8. 9 take away 1 is 8. 9 take away 3 is 6. 5 take away 4 is 1. And 0 take away 0 is 0. That's a little bit of a funky one, but it's a 1. And it looks like a J, but that's okay. But I got 1,688. And so I can check this again by taking this number and plugging it in here. But we know that it's difficult to add when they're written horizontally, so we'll need to write it vertically. So I'll copy 14,312, and then I'll add my answer, 1,688. 688, and you'll have to be very careful when you line these up. There's nothing in the 10,000 spot, okay? It's just 1,000, so it goes in the 1,000 spot. When there's nothing there, it's really a zero. You can even put a small zero if you need to, but you don't need to do that. And I have 2 plus 8 is 0. Or not 0. 8 plus 2 is 10, and I put the 1 at the top. 8 plus 1 is 10. 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 4 plus 1 is 6. And then 1 plus nothing is 1. And I get 16,000. So I know my subtraction is correct. Let's move on to the next one, and I will erase that up there just so we don't get tricked. All right, we'll choose a different color. 300,000 minus 589. Okay, once again, it's extremely difficult to do these problems unless they're written vertically. So we'll have to go 300,000. And we are really going to be borrowing across many zeros on this one. Minus, and now I have to remember 589. I need to put the 589 in the correct spot. So the 9 is in the ones place, the 8 is in the tens place, the hundreds place. There's nothing under these numbers. They're really just zeros. All right, so I think again, oh no, I have to borrow here. Can't do it, can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. So I'm going to have to borrow all the way from here. I'm going to underline this whole thing. And it's not 300,000 anymore, it's 30,000. But if you want to just make it simpler, I could think, it's just 3. If I take 1 from 3 or from 30, it would be 29,000. There we go. 999. And that can be quite difficult, but we'll cross out the 0 and then it makes it a 10. 10 take away 9 is 1. 9 take away 8 is 1. 9 take away 5 is 4. And since there's nothing under these, we just bring them down. And I know this is tricky for many of you, but now we can just check to see if this answer, when we add it to 589, gives us 300,000. And again, it's written horizontally. I'll need to write it vertically. I prefer to put the larger number on top. It makes doing the place value easy for me. So I'm going to put 299,411 as my top number. And then I will add it to 589, making sure that I put the 589 in the correct spot when I'm thinking about place value. And I think 9 plus 1 is 10. 8 plus 1 is 10. 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 9 plus 1 is 10. 9 plus 1 is 10. And 2 plus 1 is 3. Then I have to add my commas, so I always go 1, 2, 3, comma, and I got 300,000, so I know that I subtracted right. Now we can move on to the last question. And let me do some erasing. Okay, and grab a pen. 2,020 minus 1,999. Again, it's written horizontally. I'll need to write that vertically. And I make sure I line my numbers up. All right, and this one isn't as tricky as the last one. 50, I can't take away 9, but I can borrow from the 2 because there's an actual number here and not a 0. So I can cross out the 2 in the tens place, and that becomes a 1. And the 10 I take from him, I give to him, so it'll turn into a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 1 minus 9, I can't do that. If I only have 1, I can't give you 9. So I say, hey, 0, I need 1. 0 says, sorry, man, I'm all out. So that's okay, I'll borrow from the 20. And when I take 1 from 20, I get 19. And the 1 I take from 20, I stick here in front. So it'll be 11 minus 9 is 2. 9 minus 9 is 0. And 1 minus 1 is 0. You don't really need the zeros in the front, but it's okay if you put them there. But the answer we got is 21. So now I'll take this answer and plug it in here and see if when I add these two numbers together, I get 2020. So I like to use the bigger number on top. So I'll use 1,999 plus 21. Make sure you put the 21 in the correct spot when you're lining the numbers up. It should not go in the hundreds or the thousand spot because the 1 is in the 1 spot and the 2 is in the 10 spot for 21. 9 plus 1 is 10. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. 9 plus 1 is 10. 1 plus 1 is 2. And I go 1, 2, 3, and I put my comma, and I got 2020. And so I know I did these correctly. And I believe that should be the last question. Make sure you turn this in when you're done after you type your answers. Great job.